Hi guys, it's us again from Not Another FPL podcast. My name is James and I'm here with my good mate Dom. As you can see on the page, you've got the Not Another FPL podcast YouTube page. We're also all over Twitter. But yeah, first off, Dommy, if you want to kick off with your game week 20 and how it went, then that'd be great, mate.
Yeah, guys, good to be back, but not a good game week so far. Absolutely disastrous. Scored a massive 21 points, which I think is
Oof.
probably my worst score so far this season. Yeah, I've got 4 players left to play, them being Salah, Son, Trent, and Lloris. It'd be great just to get above 30 at this rate. Not very good at all. I transferred in Pogba last week, and of course Sheffield United. Why wouldn't they beat Man United 2-1 at Old Trafford?
Absolute joke.
Why wouldn't Foden come off after 52 minutes when City are scoring multiple goals from every angle? And watching the game, it was so interesting because the actual video TV recorder, what didn't even have Foden in shot half the time he was on the pitch. He was so far out on the wing. I generally think he played that game thinking I don't have to do anything here and I'm just gonna do nothing, and that's exactly what he did. So 52 minutes.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry to hear that, mate, because that's two differentials in your squad that do have a massive impact. For myself, I'm on 39 points. Yeah, pretty similar story. Not a great game week. Captain Bruno, which obviously was going to be obvious a 2-drop. I think he was the most captain player of all time in a single game week. Only positives was I brought in Sterling and Diaz for 2 players that didn't play, obviously KDB. So I'm 13 points up with my transfers, but I've gone from in the mini league to 10th to 12th. I just can't seem to be making any gains. It's just incredible. We all know who that's because of. Yao Cancelo, but I had Chris Wood on the bench. Don't know if you want to go down there, Dommy, but Burnley scored 3 goals for the first time in the season. He didn't even make my first sub. That's how bad I think the bloke is. Then he goes and gives me an 8-drop, which is quite big in this game week. So, but yeah, so that's where I am, mate. I'm not happy at all. There's major surgery that needs to be done. There's so many good picks out there. But yeah, I want to try and get 50 this week. Got 3 players left with Dyer, Salah and Son. If I get above 50, mate, I'll just, write this off.
You just take it and run away. Yeah, so look, as we can see, we both aren't Cancelo owners, and Cancelo was the one who just looked outrageous.
Yeah, he did.
In that game.
Congratulations to everyone who did bring him in, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, take my hat off to it. It's funny in hindsight how he was like 50-50 with, do I bring in Diaz or Cancelo? And I actually said Stones and Diaz get more attacking returns than that bloke. But how pathetic does that sound now?
It's all about those fine margins. Like a couple of weeks ago, when I took out Souček, I put Foden in, and it was between Foden and Gundogan. So I would have had 3 goals, the difference, a fair few more minutes under the belt. But that's what FPL is, and it's those fine swings. I think
of course.
Is going to be resilience this week because we've got to try pull this back. Annoyingly, a bit similar to you, I was sort of like clawing away in the mini league, getting some good points back each week, slow but steady, and then all of a sudden this game week is reverted. So now, looking ahead, it's a big question what to do. I think Cancelo has now turned into essential. I think you've got to get him in at all costs.
You're putting that label on him.
Mate, I think form is one of those things, as we spoke about before. Bruno was FPL gold, and he still is for the majority of the season. But there's always those players that when they find form, when they find a system that works and they establish themselves, they go for a run where I don't think you can hide in them anymore.
Yeah, out of position as well, isn't he? I mean, he's playing centre mid. If he's 5.9, defender on the game. It's just ridiculous the value he's offering. So I take my hat off to all Cancelo owners. I also, the big talking point is the amount of people that, own Souček. I think in the mini league, he's owned by about 16 players and he was benched by 10. So be interesting to see how many people actually get his points off the bench. But it's a fickle game. In that double game week, he was looking at that really good enabler, Bonnie Souček and Gundogan. It's just amazing how in a game week, everything can change. And you go from, being top dog to, a nobody. So, right then, Dominic, yes.
James.
Yeah.
Said that, sorry. How do we then go about getting these points back and outdoing our rivals and climbing the overall rank?
Yeah, if we start off obviously with the forward, so I don't know if you want to get one of our teams up, sorry, but we've got obviously we both have obviously Bamford. Now this is a talking point. He's had 3 blanks now. He's not even played 60 minutes in the last game against Newcastle, which I think are one of the worst teams in the league at the moment. That scares me, the fact he's being pulled off now. I mean, I've loved the bloke.
Yeah.
He's had, a goal and assist every 108 minutes for a player of that price. It's a joke. Is it time for the Bamford show to be over? What do you think? I think it could be.
I think the big thing to highlight there is he's been pulled off on the 59th minute against Newcastle. So he's joined that 59th minute club, only scoring the single point. It's Leeds, isn't it? Leeds are a funny animal because Bielsa's strategy, his technique, it's 100 mile an hour all the time. The amount of running that Leeds team do, the distance they cover, is extraordinary. Now,
yeah,
in a Premier League season alone, that's a hard thing to sustain. During the second half of the season.
Of course,
in a season where it's been condensed and pushed together, and there's less rest time, to then ask the same demand of those players, I think you're eventually going to hit the wall, so to say.
It is asking a lot. I totally agree. I think maybe the Bamford show is over. I think you got to look at it. He's got 15 goal involvements in 1,600 minutes. Do you just go, thank you very much, and then look somewhere else? Because you've got players in that price point, which we'll go on to now, as I think you're a fan of.
Who are they? Who would you go?
Well, I'd say definitely Mr. Ollie Watkins. He's someone who, to be honest, does frustrate me. Like Bamford, he seems to have so many chances and need to have about 5 to 10 a game to actually put the ball in the back of the net. But last 2 game weeks, I mean, he's been a lot more prolific. And he's obviously got himself 2 goals. Shame about the bonus. But yeah, he's definitely an option. And I think now they've got Barkley back.
You are Ollie Watkins. I think he's actually been surprisingly good. I mean, when a player comes up and they're purchased and they've got to start off out in the Prem for their season.
Yeah, no, he's been a great buy from Brentford.
I think he has, and I think he's actually surprised a lot of us. Definitely myself. Especially when he was scoring earlier on in the season, I thought maybe this would be his blip.
Yeah, but they're nice games there as well. Nice games. Another guy.
Games.
Say that again.
And look at those games. You go Southampton away, which Southampton can keep a clean sheet. West Ham, Arsenal, Brighton. So
yeah, not bad.
For Villa side, that's overachieving. Anything could be possible during those.
I think it's the games after that which look better to me. But no, I think Watkins is a shout. I think I'm actually going to say it, but if you can actually stretch from Bamford, and if you can find the funds, I think DCL, the return of the king, might be a shout.
Yeah,
with all the players back. We've seen Digne's come back. We've seen J-Rod's come back. Obviously, Richarlison's there. I fancy him to be, amongst it. He's had his dip in form. I don't think they've got that bad of games. They've got, obviously, 3 pretty nice games in the next 4. And then they go for a real nice run from 28. But now I think DCL, he's now 7.6 from 8 mil. I think if you can find the money, DCL. And I think that's about it, apart from Kane.
Yeah,
I honestly don't know what else to say.
You could probably argue the same with DCL if you can stretch even further. Richarlison. But, that's anyone's guess there. Looking at the top scoring strikers over here, I wouldn't go Wilson. We spoke about Watkins. If we look
Ainsley's interesting.
we look at Adams, good player in that, but nice tie against Villa coming up. Then they go United away, not necessarily the easiest. Newcastle, Wolves, Chelsea. I probably would look elsewhere than Che Adams. And then other than that, in that
scraping the barrel, aren't you?
You could take the risk whether Abraham comes ahead and starts for Chelsea. If he does, they've got a nice run of fixtures. One tough game against Spurs away in the next 5. But it'd be interesting to see what happens under Tuchel's Chelsea. So I agree with you. If you're shifting on Bamford for next game week, I'd be looking at DCL and Ollie Watkins or even Richarlison. Lovely. What else then? Is there anything else? Because I suppose if you don't have Antonio going from Bamford to Antonio, the obvious move, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That is obviously taking into consideration everyone having Antonio, so to speak, because I think he, for the double game week, everyone lumped on him. So, yeah, he'd be my number one person at the moment, Antonio, in that bracket. A little bit more, I'd go DCL, and if not, big HK10. So onto the midfield then, mate. Now, I think this is a completely different kettle of fish. I mean, there are options in abundance. As you can see, I got 4 big guns in midfield. The differentials, what I'd be looking at if I was to get rid of, let's say, Bamford and Wood and get a player in as a 5th midfielder, I'd have probably either Jack Grealish. I think he scored, didn't he, last night? I think he's looking class. What a player to watch. There's a guy who I've got a real sniff for, is Zaha. He's a little bit of a troll for me. Whenever I seem to bring him in, he's awful. But I think this bloke for me needs to be in my side.
Yeah.
ASAP. Scored last night. The games are a joke. I mean, it's just, Wolves at home, I fancy him to score there. And then them 5 games, Newcastle, Leeds, Burnley, Brighton, Fulham. All right, Spurs, then West Brom. Yeah, I just think if I'm trying to climb up this mini league, mate, I need to be hitting differential players like that. So they're 2 players just off the top of my head, mate. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, just saying there, Zaha looks like a lovely pick. All I'd throw into the hat, I'd say the Leicester boys again. You've got Barnes here, 6.8 mil, so he's cheaper than Grealish. He's cheaper than Zaha.
Who's the best, do you think, out of them 3?
Out of those 3 just mentioned?
Yeah. No, the Leicester boys, yeah.
Out of the Leicester boys, well, obviously you've got Barnes, Tielemans, and Maddison. Now,
them 3.
If we just have a look over here, we can see that Maddison, being the most expensive, is also joint on points with Tielemans, but they are just 2 points shy of Barnes. Now, when it comes to those 3, I think watching Leicester, I like Barnes more. He seems to be sort of winger, inside forward type player. However, Maddison is on the free kicks, and he takes a worldie of a free kick, so I couldn't ignore that. And I think Tielemans is on pens, is he?
I think he scored the pen against Brentford in the FA Cup. Now, with Vardy being out, I think it's quite interesting because he could be the dark horse out of them 3. I don't know when Vardy's back. I think it might have been for the Wolves game. So you've got another 2 games there. Now, with Leicester being so prone to getting penalties, obviously with Vardy probably getting, being involved in being the reason for that. I think actually Tielemans is actually looking like the one bloke that's going to tick over, and it's the games after, mate, as well.
The thing is, as well, just having a look there, Tielemans is only 2.5% owned, whereas Maddison is almost 13%, and Barnes, as you can see, is 5.7. So you go with the less owned and the person who's on pens, that's a huge differential. But
yeah, it's going to get you the gains, isn't it?
Isn't it?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, if I was to take a punt, I'd probably go Tielemans, but he's not the most exciting, is he? When you think about the 3, he's probably the least exciting. But Mario is probably the most exciting player, like you just said. capable of anything. But yeah, any other shouts then in midfield of that price bracket? I think you've got a couple there. You've got Saka. He's looking like an absolute gem of a player for Arsenal.
Well, if you haven't got Souček,
Souček
is one
for
of the
sure.
hottest guys in football at the moment. And look at that. He's gone 10 against Brighton, 3, 11, 2, 2, 15. If we look at their upcoming game, Liverpool is the hard match. He could do the same against Villa, the same against Fulham, and he could do something against Sheffield United. So
yeah, he's just a handful, isn't he?
If you haven't got Souček, you can look at Souček. You can look at Grealish, Zaha. You can look at Maddison, Tielemans, Barnes, and obviously you've got your City boy of Gundogan. You've got your City boy of Foden, which I just said I've had a nightmare with, but he's still there in that price point.
Yeah, he's going to come. He's unpredictable, isn't he? If he starts, he's more capable of getting a goal and assist. It's just, is he going to start? And Gundogan just looks unbelievable, doesn't he? I mean, that price value again, with the shake-up of the KDB injury, he's just being so far forward. And what is he now? 5? Yeah, that's the thing. It's actually scary how good of a value he is. So plenty of value. What about the big boys then? Do you see any shake up there? You got any plans to get rid of Salah after his 5 blanks? We're trying to get rid of Bamford after blanking 4 games, and he's 6.5 mil. Why are we not getting out King Mo? Like, has he not had enough chances to redeem himself? I don't know.
I think the thing with Salah, as you can see, he's 37.6% owned. You're right. He's been horrendous. That you can see from after Palace, which is ridiculous because he only played 33 minutes. He's been horrendous. And what's really interesting though is everyone has Salah, so it's a bit like if he does rubbish, everyone does rubbish, and everyone is in the same boat.
It's interesting you said that.
Gains are massive, aren't they?
Yeah, 10 people in our mini league don't actually have Salah. Like, I actually think 37%. Is he 37? I think it's not that high compared to what the likes of Son is and Kane and Bruno. I think there's definitely some players that have jumped ship with Salah. I don't know if they were on a wild card or saw something we did, Dommy. I don't know, but I thought we've said many times he was going to kick on after that Palace game. Yeah. If you just said to me he was going to blank in the next 5, I would have said you're absolutely crazy. But I don't know, man. I think he's actually like, when you work it out, it's about about 60% owned in the mini league. So when he has that game against Brighton at home, that's definitely a captainable game.
Do you think that? Interesting. Having said that, though, I was just, as you were talking, I was sort of analysing those fixtures he's got in my head. And obviously Spurs away tonight is not an easy game, and that will tell us more about where Liverpool are at as a team as well. Yeah. But you've got West Ham, who are solid at the back. They don't concede a lot of goals, and this is really interesting about Brighton because I don't know where I've got a little soft spot for them or something, but Brighton like to play. They're one of those teams who like to play football. They're not scared to be on the ball. They like putting the passes together, and everyone likes to be an outlook. So that they're very good at keeping possession. We've seen that in a few games recently where they sort of seem to be getting a little bit of form from somewhere. Now, if you're a Liverpool side, are you going to like that? I mean, Liverpool like to control the game as well. Are we possibly looking at a game of very few chances, especially if Liverpool continue the form that they are currently in? And then they go Man City and Leicester. So, I mean, you're looking at what, 5 and then Everton.
Then Everton. Yeah.
So 6 game weeks where, again, Salah might go only scoring a handful of points in the next 6 game weeks. So if you predict that, would you take him out? And if so, who for?
That's an interesting point. I think, to be honest with you, if you look at my team with them over 3 premiums, I probably have to stretch for one of the big boys up top and go either Vardy or Kane. I wouldn't go Mane. I wouldn't. If we're talking of like premiums, I'd probably, or you could easily get the likes of Grealish and then go Grealish and Kane, perhaps. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Or like we said, Zaha and Kane. So I definitely wouldn't. I think Leicester's games, as we saw, they're quite good as well. So I think they're probably just the only two that I would go for, really, off
Okay.
the top of my head.
So
Rashford,
I agree, because I think if you were looking to take Salah out of your team now and you don't own Harry Kane, I would be tempted to get Harry Kane in. I know obviously one's a midfielder and one's a striker, and it might mean you do a -4 or you do the transfers over 2 game weeks. But that's probably the only appealing asset, I would say, to get if you were moving Salah out, if you don't own already a City midfielder or Fernandes or Son. I don't think there's any other premiums that stand out. Go on then, moving on then. What about, because I think this is really interesting, and on our Twitter poll last week, a lot of people were saying about, can you talk about big at the back? Because I said in a pod, I think it was the last pod or the pod before, I said there is a return of big at the back potentially. We are seeing a lot more clean sheets. The handball rule has been modified, so it looks like penalties aren't
less pens. Yeah.
So having said that, then I'd kick it off. Like I said earlier in this episode, Cancelo you can't ignore him anymore. He's out of position. He's in a team that looked like they could go on and win the title again. He's 5.9 million. And if you look at the fixtures coming up, Sheffield United and Burnley, I mean, he could have double-digit returns again. So 24 points in the last 2 games against similar opposition, I would say.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. Genuinely can't argue. I don't know whether to lay in my bed and sleep with it, and sleep in it and just go keep Diaz, or do I just literally just do the swap this week and just go Diaz to Cancelo because it's exact money. It's just a joke. Like how well he played against West Brom. I don't know if you saw the analysis on BT, but he was just absolutely everywhere, wasn't he? And he's basically been told to do what KDB does pretty much, and he's just being given a free role. So I don't blame anybody for bringing him in for even a hit. I do think their games are getting a bit tricky, so it is a little bit short term, but the way Man City have been keeping clean sheets, I can see him keeping clean sheets against a few of them tougher games. But yeah, what a player. But for me, I think there are...
The next 2, though, hasn't he? He goes... Sheffield United, I know they just put a shift in against Man United, but Man United did make 6 changes. I think they paid a little bit of disrespect to Sheffield United, thinking the game was already won.
Yeah.
But I fully expect this team to not concede against Sheffield United. And like I say, Cancelo can easily get an assist or a goal in that game. He's the thing with Cancelo, it's not just the game against West Brom where he got 17 points, he's looked good. He could have had double-digit hauls in a number of games.
It was always coming, wasn't it? It was coming. I thought
always coming. Yeah, it was.
Not owning him, it was. You just knew it was going to come, and maybe this is hindsight, but Cancelo owners were just so optimistic in the sense of this coming. It's going to come. Like it just can't go on. And fair play to him. It's been a 17-point drop in a game week where it's been massive. So. Yeah, I think you could be right. Maybe I should just nip it in the bud now and just get rid of Diaz.
I think
it's exact money.
The thing is, like even if it means doubling up on City defence, which actually I think is a good way to go right now, because if you double up on City defence for the next 2, you've then got a nice transfer to then get rid of one of those City defenders, and if it's John Stones, Diaz, or Cancelo, although I wouldn't get rid of Cancelo, probably Diaz or Stones. They're at a nice price point where it's easy to transfer to someone who has got a few good games.
Yeah, could do Stonesy, couldn't you, to JJ, who moving on to, I think, it's a quality pick.
You could go down to a Palace defender. They got some good fixtures coming up. You go to a West Ham defender.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I completely agree. I think with Palace, I think Mitchell is just the standout pick, the value he offers at 3.9. I don't know how cemented his position is now. I like to have an opinion on that. I mean, with PVA sat there, it doesn't take much for him to be back in the starting 11. Big player who I really want, but I just can't seem to find the space for is Digne. The bloke is just, I don't know how he got on last night at home to Leicester, but he for 6 million just seems to be like it's value. I can't. Even if he was 6'5", I probably would
Well, look,
get
that's
him. It's
he's
just
got
a shame Pickford's in
7
goal,
points in
but
his last 2 games, hasn't he? 7 points in his last 2 games, coming back from injury.
since he's come back, yeah.
If you look at him from the start of the season, when he's managed to play 90 minutes, he looks like he returns in every other game.
Look
But
at that
more
red card,
importantly,
-2.
and actually, you've just reminded me, one of the midfield shouts that I shouted last week was old James Rodriguez, and now he's back. Digne's back. DCL's back. Those good times could be coming back to Everton that they had earlier in the season.
Yeah,
So,
I know they look good, didn't they? They look really good
yeah.
this start of the season, and when they tick, they do beat teams convincingly. They were scoring 3-4 goals in some games. So no, I think Digne is always a great shout. And JJ and Cancelo, they're the 3. I think if you want a cheap West Ham player, I would go for the old West Brom guy. Dawson, yeah. 4.5, he scored last night. Since he's actually signed since he's been fit in the last 5 games, he's kept 3 clean sheets and he's scored once. So, yeah, he's ticking along nicely, and he's for 4.5. I think offers great value. Dallas, it's a shame about Leeds, isn't it? You're a Dallas owner. What's your thoughts on him?
Well, for Dallas, for me, is the same story with Leeds and Bamford. Is it burnout starting to creep in? They never really look good for a clean sheet anyway, to be honest, Leeds.
No, I agree
he does
with
play
that.
out of position. He's a hard one to get rid of because of his price point. But if I was wildcarding, I'd probably look at moving him on and taking the gamble of going away from Dallas now. But only because as well, I mean, if you can get from Dallas to say your Kufal, I'd do that. If even Dawson, like you say, is 4.5.
4.5, yeah.
I like Target. If you look at Aston Villa's fixtures, they are a mix of fixtures, but as you quite rightly said, they do get better down here, where we see Leeds, Wolves, Newcastle, Sheffield, and Fulham. He got his assist, didn't he? Target, so he's an option.
2 and 2 now.
If you want to go more premium, if you do want to go big at the back, I think Chilwell's a really interesting one now. 2 shells there, but interestingly, Callum Hudson-Odoi played right wing back, so that might mean that Chilwell either plays left wing back, which is great, or Tuchel goes for something quite different. So we'd have to wait and see on that. But if I was building a squad now and looking at the fixtures, I would go for 2 City at the back for the next 2 games. That then gives me the flexibility to move one on. I'd go Leicester. I think JJ, he's a top player, and Leicester look really good. And like you said, I think now Digne's back for Everton. I think you can either have him or Keane or someone like that.
I'd just go Digne in Everton. I wouldn't touch anyone else. I think 6 mil. I think Keane does the job. But yeah, no, I definitely would just go Digne. What about goalkeepers then, mate? Anything that, because we're just sparking the conversation, because obviously with the big KDB absence, I think it's shaking up the league, hasn't it? It's shaking up the mini league. There's going to be a lot of different differentials that do.
Yeah, definitely, and I think goalkeepers are worth looking at again,
and
because
they are.
If you're making -4s, 8s, 12s, or you're looking at a wild card, obviously your goalkeeper's important. I think my standout, it depends how your team would look. If you don't have any West Ham defenders, I think Fabianski is probably the easiest one to choose at 5.1 million. If you do have someone like Creswell on your team or Kufal, you might be reluctant to get a double or triple up on West Ham. So other keepers like your standard Pope, as you can see, 5.4. I know he plays at Burnley, but he's still top of the goalkeeper. You can't ignore Martinez. But I would probably push you towards, if you were doing it right now, either McCarthy or Fabianski. I just think a bit better price. I don't really want to spend 5.4 on Pope. And it depends what you can do your team elsewhere, but I'd probably be looking at McCarthy or Fabianski.
Yeah, mine would be Martinez, number 1. I just think if I
Martinez,
was
yeah.
going to change my goalkeeper, yeah, I think just in general, I think Martinez has sparked something in my mind where I always just go with like a 4.5 goalkeeper, and I just at the beginning of the season I don't really think anything of it. He's got and proven to me how important the goalkeeper is. Like I actually next year I'm going to be looking at buying a more of a premium goalkeeper, maybe a Schmeichel. He'll probably be 5.5, but someone, because you got to think this player is going to be with you and playing every week. You wouldn't play a 4.5 defender every week, would you? He'd probably be rotated. He'd probably be your first or second sub. So I think for me, this year's, because of Martinez, gave me a lot more respect for the goalie and the points he's been getting, the bonus points he gets, the save points he gets. I think he probably will be overpriced next year. He might go to 5.5. I think he should be 5. But I mean, look at that 11, 10. Then he's got 8, 6, 6. It's just incredible. 13 on his first game. Like, I think for me, like I said, I don't normally give the goalie any respect, but next year I'm definitely going to be going more premium, mate.
Yeah, I would.
That's my thoughts.
And I'd actually say as well, James, actually having a look at rotating goalkeepers could be a way to do it as well. I know people are massively put off that, but if you're going like 4.5 goalkeepers or even a 4.5 and a 5 mil goalkeeper, I think it can be pivotal if you can call when you swap them in and out. It's basically a clean sheet that you're having every time and possibly more. I think too many points can be lost by just accepting that your keeper's going to probably get 1 or 2 points every 2 and 3 game weeks, and then you're like, oh, clean sheet. So that's a lot of points over.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I do see. Yeah, I think people that have done it, when I've seen them actually go back on their team throughout the whole season, I see it's staggering. It's like an extra like 40, 50 points. The rotation, you spend an extra 0.5 by having 2 4.5s, let's say. But yeah, an extra 40, 50 points is huge come the end of the season. So possibly that or a good premium is what I'll be looking into next year. But go on, mate, you kick on to the next topic.
Well, I was just going to say captain is, I suppose, what we're going to go on to now.
Yeah, well, I don't really want to talk about this week's captain because that was just the biggest flop.
Mate, I tell you what, I've had a fair few captain flops this season, which is annoying because it's so crucial nailing your captain.
That's twice we've captained Bruno.
I've just got your team up here for the game week 21, where you've got the captain on Sterling at the moment.
Yeah.
Is it likely to stay like that?
Yeah, I'm going Sterling. This is the reason why I brought him in. Stupidly said, I don't feel comfortable putting the armband on Gundogan, even though it wouldn't surprise me with more people putting the armband on Cancelo. It seems like a guaranteed 6 points at least, or Gundogan who's on pen. So I actually think I'm probably missing out there. Don't like the fact he played 90 minutes, but he scored, got his assist, and he's definitely going to be my captain. Might go Son if something happens tonight and he scores a brace against Liverpool. I don't know. Something might happen. Or Salah. See what happens. But going Sterling at the minute. Transfer-wise, I think I'm either going to just bank it and see what happens in the next game week. Mitchell's got a nice game, that's why. Or I might just do it and get Cancelo in for Diaz. That's where I'm looking. But see what happens tonight. What about you, mate?
Yeah, tricky. This is how I'm currently lining up for next week. And to be honest with you, I'm not thrilled with it one bit. Reason being is if I dissect this quickly, I don't see Dallas keeping a clean sheet against Leicester. Laurie's hopefully will keep a clean sheet. Stones hopefully will. But if Stones keeps a clean sheet, it's counterproductive because everyone's got a Man City defender and some have 2. So that's not really doing.
Yeah, it's weird. You'd actually want Man City to concede, which is odd, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it would actually be better. So I hate when that happens because I always like to do my players to do well regardless. Trent was looking at it now was a bad move those game weeks ago, and he's going against West Ham. They don't like conceding goals, and his attacking appeal has just gone right down. So at 7.2 mil, that could be my transfer from TAA to Cancelo is what I'm looking at. I've got more things to look at. I want Gundo instead of Foden. Pogba was a 1 week punt and they were rubbish. So the idea was to change Pogba to Sterling, but I can't do that now if I'm going to get Cancelo in. I've got Bamford with Bamford. I want to transfer him out. And my bench is a bit frustrating as well because Kilman got a clean sheet and he was my second sub. He's probably not even going to play against Palace. So there's no point starting him. And Holding's got Man United. So I'm in a predicament where I could easily make 2-3 transfers, or I could just simply do TAA to Cancelo. Annoying.
So you do 3 for a -8, would you?
I'd do 3 for a -8. I'd look at the players I've just mentioned. But the biggest issue I've got is a lot of people are going to be on Sterling captain because he's got that lovely.
I think Cancelo and Good are going to be captain more than Sterling.
Well, probably because of the ownership there, but yeah. Having said that, James, you just highlighted the fact that I own none of the 3 most.
Yeah, no, true. I'm just saying that obviously because I'm worried about them too, but I totally agree. I can see why you need some surgery doing to your team. I'd probably actually look at maybe starting Kilman. I mean, if he started last game, I mean, if it's going to save you 0.4, why not? I mean,
what is it? Is it Palace a point return? Do you know what I mean? Am I starting and then what am I hopeful of? I think Palace will score. If it was at Wolves, maybe different. I think Palace will score at home against them.
Yeah. They just kept a clean sheet away at Chelsea, didn't they? I don't know.
Yeah, but can't really look too much into that. And also, if you look at Kilman as well, if you look at his history, he didn't play the 2 games before that. And he's got 26 and 90. So really sort of hit and miss whether he even starts, not let alone clean sheet.
No, true. Just trying to save you 0.4 or whatever.
Yeah, no, I appreciate talking through it, but like I say, anyhow. Like I say, looking at it, I've got a captain headache at the moment, and I'm looking at possibly 2 or 3 transfers for a -4 or -8. So it's very difficult to say, but that's how I currently am.
Yeah. Amazing how 1 week it can all change, isn't it? I mean, there's definitely players on my radar, but it's one of them game weeks where I'm probably just going to have to write off this week and possibly next week. Hopefully call the captaincy right and then go from there.
So what about the flutter then? Let's wrap it up then and have a look at the flutter.
So the flutter for this week is just over 5-1,
cool.
I believe, on Bet365. Do you want to start off with your pick?
Well, I can't believe it. Yeah, I'm looking at it now. I can't believe that Tottenham are above even money away at Brighton on Sunday. So I'm going to go for Tottenham at 23-20, very nicely priced, to beat Brighton.
Nice. Well, I can't believe they're actually, depends how they go on tonight, but I think that is a massive price. I'm actually going for, I should have probably told you to put in a Wolves defender, but I fancy Crystal Palace to beat Wolves. I think just under 2-1 at home. I think Zaha's picking up his form. I don't see their Wolves are not the same animal without Jimenez, obviously from that fortunate incident. But yeah, just over 5-1 for Palace and Spurs double. I think offers great value. And shame about this week. Obviously, you had Leeds, which won, and mine was Chelsea to beat Wolves, which was 0-0. So that was that. But anyway, moving on. That's the flutter. There's our YouTube page. We're on Twitter, not another FPL podcast. I think that's it. And that's all I've got.
So, with no further ado then, guys, let's hope our game week 21 is 10 times better than our game week 20. We hope that you're all doing well. Guys, get interactive with us. Leave a comment. Follow us on Twitter. We love to chat back and talk through any points, any questions you guys might have. And